Hey, everybody. How are you? Sleepy little Plazic, Zazoo Plazz here in the itchy woods. I don't know what's crawling on me over here, but it's my least favorite time of the year. Absolute least favorite. You know, the end of May, May 29th, 2022. I was going to do the report on my deck because it's beautiful. All the flowers. Zazoo Plazz report, by the way. I was going to do it on my back deck, but the neighbors around having parties, and this guy next door hitting golf balls and smoking his pipe, and the other side they're having all kinds of people, and my guys are out. They every Memorial Day they go over to my husband's cousin's house, which is about a half an hour away. He's got a house with a big backyard. He's a former Marine, and so it's like I stopped going years ago because it's a big guy event. It's a bachelor cookout, cornhole extravaganza. I guess they have a whole bunch of guys over, friends of my husband's cousins, and they're all bachelors. Like half of them they're like in their 50s and 60s, and half of them live with their mothers. and they're all their names rhyme with on. Ron, Don, Juan, John, Dave. But there's some guy named Dave. There's always a Dave. I don't know. But one year we went when the kids were small. I think it was, not too small, maybe a few years ago when they were in middle school. And it was like the last time I went. I thought this would make for some good humor, so bear with me. What my son always remembers is that my husband has this cousin who's about 70 now. He's about 14, 15 years older than us. He's a bachelor, and he would always go. He'd bring his, he's an excellent cornhole player. Excellent. And, he loves our dog. God bless him. So he'd go, and one year he always watching his weight and trying to be, everything. So he'd always bring this big, he'd always bring like his healthy water or whatever. And he had this big jug. It was like a water jug, it was about this big. And he called it Big Bertha. So while you would sit there and critique your cornhole game, oh, you're, too far to the left. What do you call that? That's not, he's cheating. And then in between that and keeping score, he'd drink from his Big Bertha. So the little guy, he's always saying, yeah, remember Big Bertha? That's what he remembers at Memorial Day. Just DZ and his Big Bertha. So, anyway, and then, we go over, and, my husband's cousin, he was in our wedding party. He's a great guy, very dependable, very, no nonsense, very wise. He's a little old school, though. He'd have his charcoal grill there, and he'd be and you'd go over, and he's a bachelor, with no kids. And he doesn't know when you've got a couple of hungry boys, including my husband, where's the food? He'd put out like some, like Ruffles chips and some, onion dip, and I ended up bringing all the food. He loved it when I went, because he'd have a couple of packages of hot dogs and some rolls, And I'd make a big, and I sound like my mother right now because she would always say this. You know, my mother was the one you wanted to have come to your party because she'd bring all the food or people would come to her. You know, I'd make a big pasta salad, I'd bring watermelon, cookies, you know, everything. And I'd get there, I'd be like, what, he's got no serving utensils. And he had like a little thing of ketchup that was about this big, right? Little mini mustard. I'm like, oh, shoot. You know, this guy, he doesn't know how to live. So the next summer I came, when I was, you know, still naive, newly married, about, I don't know, the boys were, when I cared, I still cared. When I still cared about doing everything by the book, I'd go and I'd bring all the condiments. I'd bring the mustard, relish, you know, everything you need for a cookout. And pretty soon, I was getting kind of tired because I was bringing all the damn food, you know. And I said, well, you know, this is a fine mess you've gotten yourself into, Ollie. It's when I was going to come out here and talk serious today. And now I'm cracking jokes about Big Bertha cornhole, and it's just so funny, okay? So I guess the moral of the story is, you know, keep your sense of humor. Which brings me to the song for today, Genesis, Land of Confusion. It's perfect. It's perfect. You know? So I finally came to my senses. I'm going to go into it. Just bear with me. You know how we roll around here. Can't you see this is a land of confusion? Too many people, too many problems, making too many problems. Not enough love to go around. Thank you, Phil Collins. You're my hero. Superman, where are you now? Phil Collins, right? That's where my wisdom comes from these days. You know, I used to read the Bible. I just listen to YouTube. All right, I'm getting to it. Okay, I still pray. I just do it a little different. The way they're talking to me, you know, it comes in many ways. It might come through the Bible, but, you know, it also comes through Genesis. Genesis, get it? Genesis is in the Bible. All right, there we go. That's your wisdom for today. You know, and it's perfect. If you look at the lyrics to Land of Confusion, which I think came out in the early 80s. I remember the album, I had it. It was green, it had a thing on it. And I remember the video it was very good. I'll put it down there. The marching feet, right? Memorial Day parades. The whole, you know, war, fighting in wars thing, the confusion. And remembering a time of peace, you know, trying to use our hands, use our abilities to make this a world worth living in, worth fighting for, right? That's my serious piece through this whole thing. Amongst the potato salad and the hot dogs and the, you know, pumping up the car, taking a second mortgage on your house to put gas in the car, and, you know, we Gen Xers, those of you listening who happen to be in my generation, you gotta put it right. We grew up with this stuff. We grew up with confusion. We never had any illusions that, you know, that life was going to be easy. You know, we grew up sitting in the back seat waiting for hours just to get gas. You know, we grew up with, you know, a world, we came into a world that was becoming increasingly aware that things weren't ideal, things weren't perfect. You know, I've been living with this my whole life. not exactly knowing what to do, but knowing that I should talk about it, knowing I should write about it, feeling like we shouldn't waste our time here on the planet because it's short. So what are you going to do? Time to start doing it. That's a loud bird. All right, so, I've always had this feeling, that when I was in high school, of course I went to a Catholic high school, the idea was that to whom much is given, much is expected. And I was given much. And I'm not talking in the way of material ease, although I've been fortunate in that respect. But I've always felt the obligation, I think, to give back. So that's that's why holiday weekends to me, weekends like this especially, are times for reflection, for doing things that other people aren't doing, because that's what I consider to be my most important job in the world. I spent yesterday, it was raining, and so I'm putting all my articles from high school onward on my website, and I'm seeing sort of a pattern. What I'm seeing is that the things that I most have written about most would be food, health and medicine, science and technology. These are kind of Virgo themes, And I'm Pluto and Virgo generation. I have my Uranus and Pluto in my 12th house, which is ruled by Pisces, has to do with, sort of the sort of goop and melting pot into which we all fall. So that's where I spend my holiday weekends, in the mud and the goose poop on the trail. I got like birds dive bombing from the trees, and I'm happy though. And then I can go and indulge a little and not feel so guilty, so owing, because I do feel we have an obligation, I don't come from a family, and I say this every Memorial Day, I don't come from a family that fought in any wars. We were not, I'm French Canadian of ancestry, and they're not a real fierce people. We're a pretty peaceful people, The articles, so I was saying, the articles, the writing that I'm most drawn to is, drawing attention to people who are making the world a better place. Whether through a restaurant, an illusionist who, entertains people, all these things that I feel passionate about, improving health, improving life through technology, making it easier to get information, and having information be accessible to everyone. Those are things I'm passionate about. And those are the things, for the most part, I've written about. From high school onward, I was, even I had forgotten, my freshman year in high school, I had written, I think it was freshman year, before I was editor and all that, I was warning people about, those books you get, those Who's Who books. I don't know if they do it anymore, but they used to have these books like, oh, you can be featured in Who's Who in American high schools or whatever. And then you got to pay like the $100 or $50 or whatever. You got to get the book, and they put your name in this book, and it's Who's Who. And I was like, don't get it. It's a hoax. It's a scam. And I'm still suspicious of this thing. When I was in college, they had this Golden Key Honor Society, which I paid the money and I was, part of. And then I start wondering, what is that really? What was that? And several of my friends were in it, and it seemed like a legitimate thing, and it still may be. But I always wonder about things like that, because I have Neptune in my second house conjunct my sun, and sometimes I can get talked into nefarious, dubious schemes uh, by virtue of my ego, falling for complimentary words. So there's that. In other words, people can, try to tell me how wonderful I am, and I'll do anything. See, status is a funny thing. You have to be careful of status and, pomposity, and people who march around waving flags and dictating, what is honorable and what is noble and what is what is indisputably the be all and end all of life, because I think it's different for everybody, but ultimately I think it's love, and not like romantic love. I think that's probably on the lower end of things. I think it's transcendent love, the love of God, the love of creation, the love of all that's in all things, that creates all things. That's the good stuff. And when we get away from the land of confusion and we, rise above it and get some perspective, we realize it's not all about having the latest car, the latest phone, although my husband will disagree with me there because he likes to get the latest gadgets. And I haven't been seeing a lot of blue cars lately. I love blue cars. Almost every car I've ever really loved has been blue. And so my Big Bertha minivan is probably, we're praying it lasts another 3 years to get the younger one through college, but, by the will of God, it will. But yeah, I'm all for, electric vehicles or sustainable transportation. I'm not one of those people who has to have a flashy car. And some people have flashy cars and they don't even drive them because A, they're too expensive to fill up, and B, they don't want anything to happen to them when they're on the road. So what's the point? If you've got a car that's too nice that you can't drive it, what's the point? You're going to have to look after it, worry about it, pay for it. I say, just go to a car show, get a picture taken of yourself with a cool car, and hang it up on the wall. Post it all on your Facebook page and go, look at my new car. I am so cool. And then go home and, ride your bike. Oh, I'm not going to get invited to too many cookouts. I don't care. Because by the time the charcoal would get going, I guess I started that story. I didn't really finish. Yeah, so, when you have kids and stuff, and you go to somebody's house, and they've got the charcoal going, and the food is going to be ready for 3 hours. The kids get a little impatient. So the hot dogs would take a while. in the meantime, they eat all the salad and eat all the, the chips and everything. Everything would be gone. Um, so my my older son, he's going to the bachelor's party today, and then he's taking off. He's going to Disney World with his buddies from college for a week. He's going to Orlando to party, but he's got it all planned out. He got, he, you know, so he said, "Well, I'm not going to eat at the cookout, so I got to eat before I go, and when I get back." So he gets to be 21, and they get smart. It's like they're not going to have any good food there. So I'll just play a little cornhole and, I'll bring my own drinks. So, um, so then, he's going to Disney World. And he's like, "Mom, you just went to Arizona." So I helped him, comparing flights, and because flights are expensive. And so he went with the cheapo airline, but he did like spreadsheets where he compared the prices and everything. And is it worth, joining the frequent flyer club and this and that? And, what if I check a bag versus not? He evaluated every option. Good Virgo that he is. He, and arrived on the best, the best combination of fares and hotel and, this is the computer science major. He's got it all figured out. Then he went, he got his, coupons, and then he realized he needed a jacket, a windbreaker. So my husband went out and tracked down a nice windbreaker for him because, it's probably going to rain while he's there. So he got himself a nice, good quality, but it's so hard to find those. Oh man, I don't know if you've ever tried to, you go to some places and they're like $200 for a rain jacket. How do you do this? But there are ways. So, it's like one of those things. You just, when you see one, you've got to pick it up because otherwise, you're out of luck. So, and then the other one, visiting his girlfriend for the weekend. So, but the garden is growing. And I can see, now we're at the point where we can see the weeds from the vegetables. So it's easier, to pull out the ones that are clearly weeds. Ow! Something jumped on me. What the heck was that? It's just something, I don't know, something jumped down my back. I don't know what that was. What the heck? All right. Well, anyway. Probably karma. All right. So, so I'll post a few pictures of the garden, but it's growing. It's getting really tall. The cucumbers are growing, and the tomatoes and everything. And so, I'm so glad. I used to plant on Memorial Day weekend, but that I couldn't enjoy myself. It's like it was hot or it was totally raining. This year, wow, I planted early, and I've got one of those apps where you can track, like what you're growing and when it's going to be ready and all that. So I've elevated it to a whole new level. I think it has to do with Ceres, the asteroid, Ceres, look it up. Some kind of aspect. So, I called my dad, so he's like, "Ooh, what you got going on Monday? You having anything good to eat?" Like, that's my dad, the Taurus. He's feeling around to see if there's a cookout that he can crash. Oh, I don't know. I bought like a ton of potatoes. I was going to make a potato salad and then have some chicken. Maybe on Tuesday have some grilled chicken, but I don't know. See, the thing with the guys. See, the thing with guys in general, I don't think I'm going to be able to stand these bugs. See, ladies, tell me if you agree with this. in my husband's mind, right, as he's somebody who kind of stomps around the kitchen. He's he's kind of, well, we got to make the food, you know. And I elevate it to an art form. So he said, let's throw some dogs on the grill. Yeah, but what these guys don't realize is you need salads, you need place settings, you need utensils, you need drinks, you need, you know, he would just like, psst, this this is his way, you know, like just, my goal in life is to have a beautiful things around me, beautiful nature, scenery, food, and you know, not necessarily expensive, but the way my parents did things growing up, especially my mother, she had a sense for the beautiful, Venus qualities, you know, nice views, nice paintings, nice conversation, nice music. You know, not to throw a dog and a burger on a paper plate and, you know what? That's not life. That's not living to me. I mean, come on, guys. I guess I'm starving for the finer things, finer sensibilities. And, yeah, a little bit lacking in that right now. And I think, you know, if to the extent you can do that in life, or that's, you know, beauty in whatever form you find it, bringing that into reality is, it's a good thing for everyone. So, yeah, take us from a land of confusion to a land of peace, harmony, and beauty. That's the goal. So, welcome to summer, almost at the summer solstice, and I wish you a wonderful holiday weekend, wonderful start to June, Gemini season, and may you find beauty and harmony all around you. Till next week, Zazoo Plazz, signing out. Bye-bye.